don't mind coming, just sitting in these couple of rows here. And we'll encourage others to be like that too, because when you guys ask questions, you want to be able to hear each other. Plus, I'm a little bit deaf, so come on in. Oh, not just 2 rows, man. Come on. Let's come in here. Hey, I just got to thank these guys, and could you give them a round of applause, the team from JAH? Because here we are at a tech conference for the church, and we had an awful time trying to get my computer on a screen anywhere. We tried for this one up here, then we ended up solving the solution through the wonderful LED screens, and it's actually showing up all the faults in my presentation. But anyway, there you go. Thank you, guys. All right. As I said, my name's Grant Norsworthy, and you are here at a class that we have called Effective Preparation. I'm talking about practice, sound check, and rehearsal. And I know we're at a tech, audio tech, visual tech sort of people, but are there any musicians or singers here, instrumentalists, singers? That's good, because that's my background as well. So I'd love to hear a little bit about where you're from. Just maybe we'll have time to get around to all of us. Just a real quick statement about where you're from and why you're here at CSMT, and maybe even why you've come to this particular class. And I'm even going to hand around the microphone. Can we do that? All right. We met earlier. Was it David? John. Got it so wrong.
Hi, my name is John Cruz. I live here in Kissimmee, Florida. Reason why I'm here at the conference is because I want to know more knowledge of what I can do for God. I come here to Calvary Assembly of God, and I'm one of the musicians, and I just want to grow.
And what about this class?
This class, well, practice, sound check, and rehearsal is something we do when we're before our services, and I just want to make it where I can understand it more and try to improve it.
God bless everybody. I'm pastor and worship leader Emmanuel Baez from Jesus Chosen Nation Ministries. I'm here today not just as a worship leader. A worship leader should always try to gain knowledge and understanding for all different areas. The good thing is when you have a strong leader, you have strong co-people. So everybody, we all should be thinking Christ-minded, and we all should be thinking unity. And unity is very important. I'm from New York, and that's it.
Thanks, Manuel. God is with us, right? We've got a lady here. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Rosa?
Yeah. Hello, my name is Rosa. I'm originally from upstate New York. I live here in Kissimmee. I come here to Calvary Assembly of God, and I recently joined the choir here. And I just came here today to learn more about everything.
And this class in particular?
Just to learn, gain knowledge of anything and everything I can.
That's very good, Rosa. Yeah. We may not have time to get around to everybody. Would 2 or 3 other people just want to tell us who you are, why you're at this conference, and why you come to this class?
Hey, I'm Rick Armstrong. I'm from Satellite Beach, about an hour east of here. And I came here because my wife and I work in the AV booth at our church, Satellite Beach United Methodist, and we're the only AV team, other than the one that gives us a break once a month that we just got like 3 months ago. But this particular class, our worship director, he squirrels a lot. Do you know what squirrel means? You go, squirrel, and he goes, he's a little ADD-ish, and we wanted to see how you say a practice, rehearsal, sound check, and all that should be done, because with the turnover we have, we've already been through 3 music directors. We'll be there for the 4th.
Okay, Rick, wow, it's a tough situation you come from. I'm so glad you guys are here. 1 other person, 2 other people, who'd like to? Here's a handsome fella, come on.
My name is Andy Newsom. I'm the worship pastor at Trinity Baptist Church in Ocala, just about 2 hours north of here. And first time here at the conference, good friends with Rob Robinson and Russell Bias from Creative Sound, but just heard about this conference and this class. Literally had my tech guys sort of come together and they said, hey, we want to go to this one and this one. So you go here and figure out how to do rehearsals. And so I need somebody to tell me how to do rehearsals. So.
Great. All right. Is anyone else busting at the seams to introduce themselves, or should we get rolling? All right, let's get rolling. As I've said, my name is Grant Norsworthy, and my background is actually as a musician. You might be able to tell I've got a southern accent. Are you coping with my southern accent okay? Southern hemisphere. Originally from Melbourne, Australia, but I've been living in Nashville, Tennessee since 2002. I came over as a bass guitarist in a band called the Paul Coleman Trio, or PC3 for short. And then when that band broke up, as bands do, I found myself playing bass guitar in a band called Sonic Flood that some people still remember. And I played with them for about 3 years. And before my time in those bands in Australia, I was playing in a lot of different bands as well. And loved playing bass guitar. And I pretty quickly learned that the most important member of the band is the sound tech. The most important member of the band is the sound tech. The only objective ears in the room are the sound techs. If we want our band to sound really good, we've got to have a great working relationship with the sound tech. And we've got to make sure that they are given whatever they need to make our sound achieve the goals that we're shooting for. It was interesting, when you're an Australian and you want to relocate to the United States, it can be a really tough leap to make, especially if you're saying, I'm a musician. I want to come to America and work and earn money. And the American authorities will say, we have musicians. We don't really need you. And it was even tougher for us because we were a band in 2002 saying, we want to come to America. We've got an American record label that wants to sign us. We've got an American management company that wants to work with us. We've got an American booking agent. And we said, and we need to bring our sound engineer, Dave. We need him to have a visa as well, please. And they're like, we have sound technicians. And we went to great lengths through 2001, 2002 to say, no, he is a member of the band. We do not sound the same unless we have Dave at the mixing console. Now, we arrived in February 2002, this little band, 3 of us. We brought our wives. I'd been married for about a month and a half. And I'll tell you more about Brooke and all that if you come to some of my other classes, or maybe you'll be here for the services tomorrow morning. Some of us will be. But we managed to get Dave with us on a visa, and we were opening for Third Day. You know, remember Third Day? Like they just called it quits very, very recently. Amazing band. We were playing in front of thousands and thousands of people. And Third Day stole our front of house guy because we sounded better than them. Not necessarily our playing or our singing, but our mix, the way our sound worked, because Dave Jacques, genius. And we wouldn't have had that sort of sound unless we'd worked out that he was the most important member of our band as far as our sound goes, and that we needed to have systems in place to make our preparation for any performance as best as it could be. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about is based on those sort of experiences where after I finished my time as a bass guitarist in 2007, I decided, you know what? I love playing bass guitar, but I'm actually a teacher. I'm a speaker. And so since that time, I've been fronting an organisation that I call More Than Music Mentor. And the subtext there is equipping for artistic excellence and authentic worship. So I provide training. That's what I do. And I can sing and I can play. And I bought a guitar, one of those ones with 6 strings, and I got a capo, and I learned to play in G, and I found out I could play half the church's repertoire. And so I love to still write songs and perform songs and invite people to sing praises to God as an expression of worship. But I found that I'm actually a better teacher. And I love that. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I would love to stay in touch with you. Hey, Emmanuel, would you do me a little favour? Would you get each person one of these, please? There'll probably be loads of leftovers. I would love you to have one of those little flyer things. And I'm also going to hand around this. It's my iPad. Please don't drop it. My 4-year-old does that often enough anyway. But would you join my mailing list, my emailing list? I won't flood you with loads of information. I don't send emails out very often, but I will send you one email if you do sign up with at least your email address. And I'd love some more details, especially your zip code and your name and what church you're connected with. But if you'd care to give me those details, I'll shoot you an email. So if you've got any more questions about what we go through today, you'll be able to continue the conversation with me. Do you want to start over here, Jack? Thanks. Just pass it on to the next person as we go. And if you go to morethanmusicmentor.com, the website, you'll find a whole lot of free videos and other resources. And I've had opportunity now to write articles for like Worship Musician Magazine and WFX Network, Worship Tech Director. They publish my articles, which is really wonderful. And there's a lot of those free resources available through morethanmusicmentor.com, including some of the things I'm going to cover today. All right, amen. Good deal. Emmanuel, you're making me feel like we should pray before we get into this. Too far. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you that you are here and that this time together can be an expression of your worth. It can be a way of worshipping you, God, worshipping you this morning, this afternoon. God, we want to utilize music and sound and light in ways that are honoring to you and more effective at helping God's people connect more deeply with you and with each other. So, God, I pray that our time together would be fruitful, would be valuable. Guide us, Lord. And we commit this time to you. And it's because of Jesus that we get to pray like this. We recognize that, God. Amen. More about this other times, but I just want to quickly mention that it's because of this organization called Compassion International that I'm able to be here. I thought it was Kissimmee, but it's Kissimmee. Is that right? Kissimmee? All right. Not Kissimmee. Okay, good. I'm glad we got that sorted out. But I live in Nashville, was able to travel here and be here this weekend for CSMT because of Compassion, child sponsorship organisation. Love to speak to you about that this weekend, and you'll see my table out there where you can speak to me about that, or More Than Music Mentor, or both. Now, a thing that we need to establish before we get too far into the what and the how of rehearsal, of practice, of sound check, we need to first talk about the why and for whom. And let's realize that we who are involved in church music, whether that be the technical side of it or the musical side of it, we can so easily get consumed by what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Right? What key is the song in? What light should we have? What's the EQ setting going to be? We get so into all that we can forget why. We can forget who this is for. And I'm not going to dig too deeply on that because I want to get very practical with you, but please come to my other sessions during CSMT. We're going to dig more deeply into the why and for whom, but let's recognize that we can make that mistake. And so to get us on the same page, let's understand whatever we are doing with our sound checks, with our practice, with our rehearsal, with the technical side of things, with the musical side of things, what we are shooting for, what we are aiming for is connection. Deeper connection with God and with each other. That's what we're doing. It's not about having great LED screens, even though that helps. It's not about having just the right setting on your compressor. It's not about having just the perfect guitar tone or an amazing singing voice. Those things can help, but what we are shooting for is deep connection with God and with each other. So that's the why and for whom, right? Why we want to connect. For whom? It's for God and it's for our church family. And I love this Bible verse that tells us a little bit more about this connection. It says, speak to one another with psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit. Sing and make music from your heart to the Lord. That's Ephesians 5:19, a good one to remember. Ephesians 5:19. See if you can get that one in your head. And here's the thing about it. I love this verse because it's got both the vertical and the horizontal in it. Can you see it? Look, speak to one another. Sorry, it's vanishing off the side there, but I'll read it to you. Speak to one another. Horizontal connection. With psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, sing and make music from your heart to the Lord. Horizontal and vertical connection. So there's a very, very quick skip over the why and for whom, all right, that we need to establish. Are we all on the same page there? That's why. That's for whom, all right? That's who this is for. Great. So now let's move to the what and the how. It seems to me that with a band, there are 5 things you can do. I mean, you can have a band setting up, you know, putting the cymbals on the stands, putting microphones in front of those drums. We can set a band up. But here are the 5 main things. Once you've got the band set up, you can jam. Do we know what jamming is? All right. Now, the word jam, by the way, has a very, slightly different understanding in the jazz world. But for us, let's say that jamming is just playing with music, playing with our instruments, fooling around. And it might be on your own, just noodling on the guitar or just trying some different drum beats or fills. I found that the singer's version of jamming is chatting to each other, all right? It's not necessarily doing anything particularly musical, but it's just fooling around. And it's fun, and it's a good thing to do. I think it's actually a really important thing for every instrumentalist especially to do in their development, to have these opportunities just to play with music. So that's one thing you can do with your band, jamming with each other. Then you can practice. Now, when I say the word practice, what I mean here is, how are we going to do this song? What key should it be in? What parts are you going to play? What parts am I going to play? How are we going to sing this? What's the phrasing? That's another thing you can do with a band, all right? Practice. Then there's a sound check. That's the third thing you could do with a band, right? This is a situation where we should be listening to each individual sound source, every microphone, every DI, everything that's producing sound, and check the quality of each one and treat it in a way that makes it most effective. Lifting the volumes, lowering the volume, changing the EQs. It might be panning if we're in stereo. And there's a sound check that has to happen for the monitor world, the sound that's on the stage, right? Are we all on the same page there? That might be in-ear monitors, might be personal mixers, or it might be open speaker wedges, but there's the monitor sound check and there's a front of house sound check. 2 different sound checks, but we often roll them together into one. So there's a third thing you can do with a band. A fourth thing you can do with the band is rehearse. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, he already said practice. And for many of us, the word practice and the word rehearse are synonymous. They mean the same thing, but they should not. A rehearsal is very different from practice. A rehearsal is, we know how this goes. We're just going to run through it. And we might pause and bump off some rough edges or realize something's not quite right, but think in theatre terms like a dress rehearsal. This is the final couple of runs through to make sure it's all sitting together, that it makes good musical sense, that we have crafted a sound that's going to invite our church congregation to sing passionate praises to God, sing prayers to God, sing reminders of truths about God. This is the sound. Let's just make sure we've got it as polished as we can make it. And the final thing you can do with a band, I didn't want to say perform, especially in our church setting, because that's not what we're doing, right? So I used the word implement. We get to implement what we've prepared to connect with the congregation and help us all to connect with God. Now, here's the problem. I've been traveling around doing workshops and training for different church musical groups for the last about 10 years. And what I see over and over and over again is a team who do not have clearly defined differences between those 4 terms on the left-hand side. And they're all overlapped. They're all blended together. They're all mushed together. You know what I'm talking about. You know, you walk in and the bass player's got earbuds in, listening to his phone, listening to the song that we're supposed to be preparing for the first time. Right? The guitarist is over here playing Eddie Van Halen's Eruption just because he can. You know, the drummer's trying to find the sticks bag. And the acoustic guitarist is trying to work out why he hasn't got a signal. He's yelling at the engineer, "There's no signal here! There's no signal here!" And the person up here is going, "What are you saying?" We're trying to have a sound check at the same time as a jam, at the same time as a practice, and someone's trying to get the band to start rehearsing. It's a mess. Is it any wonder that huge gobs of our most precious commodity, time, vanish? Doesn't it feel like there's never quite enough time to get it to the standard that we really want, that we know we're capable of? If we used our time more efficiently, we could craft a sound that would take us further into this deeper connection with God and with each other. Doesn't God deserve our best? What is our response to the cross of Christ? Is it near enough is good enough? Is it we'll just cobble together and do the best we can? Or is it worth very clear, distinct differences between the four things on the left-hand side here? So I'm a big fan of jamming, all right? But in our time that we have set aside to prepare music to implement with our congregation, there is no time for jamming. I'm sorry. If you come and start jamming during my rehearsal, you'll get this. This is my internationally understood symbol for stop and listen. Hey, I love that you want to jam, but now's not the time. If you want to speak to me about coming on another night of the week or another time, I can let you use this sound system. I can set you up to jam, but you must not jam when I'm the musical director and I'm trying to get us to prepare to implement songs. Are you with me? So there's no time for jamming, and you need to establish that really clearly with your team. Now, someone might need to like set up and be there and just check their tone and make sure they're there, make sure it's happening. There's a fine line between is this working and jamming, right? But we need to have a clear distinction. Yes, you can check your guitar amp is working or whatever you need, but then stop. I'm going to suggest that there's no time for practice. What? No, I don't know what it's like for you, but for me, there's no time for practice. Practice needs to have happened before we gather together. Practice needs to be done when we're at home. Get it together at home before you come together. We don't have time for that. Now, I've done coaching sessions for churches where they have Wednesday night practice and Sunday morning rehearsal. That's a lot. But that does work for some people, and they define it that way. Wednesday night is practice. And that's when you're going to find out what the songs are for the first time. And we're going to listen to them together, and we're going to work it out together. What key do you think we should do it in? What drum groove should we... They want to do it that way, but for the rest of us, right, there's no time for all that. So we need to have strong leadership from a musical director who's going to say, all right, I want us to do these songs. These are the keys, these are the charts, these are the sound recordings, and I'm going to make them available to my team so they have the resources they need and they know very clearly that they need to practice these songs before we get together. Don't call your practice rehearsal. Don't rehearse and practice at the same time. Yes, you'll have to knock off some rough edges and smooth it out. But I would strongly suggest that we need to make sure practice is done before we get together. That leaves us with sound check, rehearse, implement. On the left-hand side of that list there, I'd like to think that I've saved you 50% of your time. You've got twice as much time now, roughly. Let's use that time well. And I like, the little phrase I've heard, it's practice is personal, rehearsal is relational. The rhyme and the alliteration help with that. Practice is personal, rehearsal is relational. That's something I borrowed from my friend John Nickel. There's a big problem here as well if you say to one person, hey, would you please practice that song before rehearsal? And then I say to someone else, would you please practice that song before rehearsal? Two different people understand that completely differently. One person, what's your name? How do you say it? Two might spend 5 hours sweating over this new song. What's your instrument, Two? All around. Let's say you're spending 5 hours on guitar just working out every little tone and every lick and every voicing and everything like that. And then Emmanuel might be like, yeah, I'll listen to it twice in my car on the way into rehearsal and consider that I've practiced it. It means different things to different people. So we need to get on the same page with when we communicate to our team, I need you to practice before rehearsal. Then we need to have a clearly understood term that we all understand as the same thing. So I've taken this thing from psychology called the hierarchy of competence. Like psychologists know about this, and people in education talk about this. But for our purposes, I've called it personal practice by numbers. And it goes like this. It's sort of go with me, it's a sort of a technical chart. But there's level 0 in this hierarchy of competence. Level 0 represents that song that you don't know at all. We say it's unconscious incompetence, right? There's a song somewhere that exists. You've never even heard the title. You don't know anything about it. That song is at a level 0 as far as your level of practice goes, right? And that might be what we would say is a song I've never heard. And then we move up from there, and I'm going to add 2 numbers at once because there's kind of 2 levels to this. Now we're talking about conscious incompetence. Level 1, level 2, conscious incompetence. I am learning this song. I have heard it. I've been told about this song. I've been listening to it. I might have even grabbed my instrument and jammed along with a little, but I still don't really know it. If someone took away the sheet music or the chart or whatever you're using, would you be able to play it? No. So that's the descriptor there I put is I've heard it and may have even jammed along, but I still don't really know it. Conscious incompetence. I know that I don't know it really. Next level, 3 and 4, conscious competence. I have to think about it, but I know how it goes. I have to have my mind engaged, but I can play it or I can sing it. That's what I'm going to call conscious competence. I'm knowing the song. So here we go. I've immersed myself in this song. I'm ready for rehearsal. All right? And this, as we'll discover, that's the level we're asking people to be at, a level 3 or a level 4. Now, I normally see church musicians, especially the instrumentalists, well, it's almost like they're sweating beads of blood. You know, they're right on the edge of their ability level, like looking at the chart. How does it go? How does it go? I think I've got it. What's happening? What's happening? And is any wonder that, you know, the wheels fall off when we decide to repeat a chorus or extend a bridge or change something on the fly, which I love to do that. But if you can't do that if you're at a level 1 or 2. You need to be able to glance at your notation or your chord chart, just as a little reminder. But you should be able to play it almost without looking at it. But you've still got your mind fully engaged. I have to think about this. The final level of this hierarchy of competence, this personal practice by numbers, is level 5, unconscious competence. And I love the symmetry of this. Unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence, or mastery. Do you know why professional bands, one of the main reasons why professional bands sound so good? Why Chris Tomlin's band slams every night? Because they're playing the same 12 songs 5 nights a week for 6 months. Yes, they're good players. Yes, they're professional. But they're not changing the set every week like we tend to do. Now, in many different bands, I've reached that point, level 5, where it's like, you don't even have to think about it anymore. I know how this song goes. And you're free to enjoy so much more. It can end up being, well, for me, I was in bands that did a lot of what I call prancing, stancing, and left and right glancing. You know, the performing. So you're thinking more about connecting with people in the crowd and moving around and connecting with your bandmates. And yeah, because you're not even thinking about the music. You're letting the music move you and you're feeling it, but you're not thinking about what notes and my technique and things like that. It's a lot of fun. Level 5 is great, especially for us in the Christian church where we're really trying to be responsive to the Holy Spirit, right? We're trying to see if we can stir the pot here of this group of people who want to show passionate worth of God, worship God through these songs. So if we're at level 5, it frees us up to do a lot more of that and to be spontaneous with our structures and our arrangements and our dynamics. But if you're not level 5, maybe 4, you can't do any of that. Yeah? So my main point here is that even though this thing of I don't even have to think about it exists, What we're actually asking of our teams is to come to rehearsal at a level 4, hopefully, a level 3 at the least. And I'd encourage you to show them this sort of chart and talk about this and have them know that level 1 or level 2 is not prepared, not fully prepared. So here's this statement, I said it to you before. Practice is personal, rehearsal is relational. And that's a John Nickel from worshipteamcoach.com statement that I really like as well. And he wouldn't mind me using that with you guys, I'm sure. In fact, I even spoke to him about it. There you go. Or anything like that? Yeah? Great. So, excellent. I have too in choirs. I played cornet and flugelhorn and trumpet in a lot of bands, and you were handed notation, right? And so you had not only the benefit of a conductor, the musical director, but you also had the benefit of a professional arranger. So when I was playing my trumpet and I saw, 32 bars of rest, I would just stop playing. When I saw that F symbol, I would play loudly. When I saw PP, I would play. Are you with me? And the conductor would remind me of where we were at all the time, but I had it all written there. And there was a beauty to that. There was ability to do depths and intricacies of arrangement that are much harder to do if we are just looking at a chord chart and listening to a sound recording, right? And that is the general practice. Here's a YouTube link. Here's an MP3. Here's something I'm planning to listen to, and here's a chord chart. Now, this is what I see often with church bands. We end up seeing people, the electric guitar, the keyboard, the acoustic guitar, everyone, bass player, drummer, just plowing through the songs, playing every note of every chord all the time. And we end up with this block of sound that's just like, the song starts, it ends, whoop. And there's no benefit of a professional arranger. You end up with this big slab of sound. And so we have to recognize this, that if we are not going to use notation, if we are not going to have a conductor, then we need to, and if we're moving away from like notation, and that's, by the way, that's some handwritten notation by J.S. Bach on the left there. Look at he did that probably without even a piano in front of him. We have given away something beautiful when we move away from notation. But I don't know what it's been like for you, but when I was drawn away from notation in my trumpet and was given a bass guitar, I found myself able to be more creative. I could create my own parts. I could listen to the other players and respond to what they were doing in that moment. And it was a huge explosion of joy for me to be moved away from the notation. But I owned that I am now also an arranger. And what is not spoken about very often in our church bands is that if we are going to simply hand out chord charts, or even if we are going to give sound recordings and a chord chart, you're not just saying, play the notes. You're saying, listen to this sound recording and be an arranger. Work out what you're going to play that represents something of this sound recording. Now, some churches try to copy the professional, probably Nashville recorded sound recording in every detail. I don't advocate for that. Be who you are. Create your version of a song, but own that responsibility and be inspired by the professional sound recording, the YouTube link or the MP3 or the Spotify playlist, whatever you've heard, be inspired by that. But let's be honest here, with modern technology and recording, you're probably hearing a recording that's got 15 guitar parts on it. Which one are your 2 or 3 guitarists going to play? Well, they better talk to each other and work it out. Well, I'm going to take that really high chimey one. Can you take the big slab chord? And we're going to have a couple of phone calls or emails as we're leading up to our rehearsal to sort those sort of things out. So our instrumentalists must also be developing as arrangers, and this is where a musical director can really help. Hey, we're learning this new song at our rehearsal this week. I want you to especially listen to how verse 2 is a very different arrangement to verse 1. And there's a different kick pattern, and the electric guitar hasn't come in yet. Well, you know, there's things like that that we can point out to our team members as we move forward. And please understand, everyone in our band should know that the decision not to play is a musical choice. You know, those bars of 32 bars of rest when I was a trumpet player in bands, I would just stop playing and it was like, oh, I get a little break, I guess. I don't know what this is about. But now I'm realizing that choice to stop playing, especially when I'm doing this because I'm playing bass guitar, I'm going to stop playing bass guitar for like 4 bars and then hear what it does when it comes back in. That's the joy of being an arranger. And I love this from Mozart, who said, notes are silver, rests are golden. All right, our instrumentalists need to know that choice to take a break can be the right musical choice. You don't have to plow through every note of every chord all the time. You've got a chord chart. Okay, it does say G, E minor, C, D, G, E minor, C, D, but you don't have to play every note of those chords every time. You might step out. You might just play one of those notes. You might just play the G note for a while. And hear what it does as it flows through someone else doing the chord changes. Are you with me? So these are the sort of things we need to be talking about, also from Mozart. The music is not in the notes, but in the silence between. Isn't that beautiful? So let's not have these big slab songs of sound. You know? That's not engaging for a congregation. It doesn't help us connect with God or with each other. Let's be a bit more creative. We claim this special connection with the creator of all creativity, don't we? Well, then surely our music should reflect that. Hey, let's take a pause here for a moment. Is my iPad back or still wandering around? There it is. Hopefully you'll put your details in there. I'll send you an email this week and we can stay in touch if you'd like. Any comments or questions about this so far? I know I'm just like pouring all sorts of stuff over you and there's more to come. Any questions? Yeah, Rick, what do you got?
We do a rehearsal on Thursday night that actually is a rehearsal because they're told, practice the song, know the song before you get here. But it's sort of half and half of what you're talking about because that's where they work out exactly how they're going to do it together. But they're supposed to know the song, and then Sunday morning, an hour before the service, is more like just the run-through. So would you still consider that? You're definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like Thursday night's a bit of a hybrid, and the problem, there's a difficulty where it's like the fastest way to teach everyone on your team the lowest common denominator for personal preparation is to accept someone who's just listened to it twice, and then someone else who spent 5 hours on it. It's like nothing is said. So in that sort of situation, I'm sure everyone would like people to come to the Thursday night better prepared, closer to rehearsal and less practiced. The best way I've found to encourage that is to, hey, I can tell you spent a lot of time on that part. I really appreciate it. And do that publicly. Wow, that is so, this rehearsal is going to go so much better because you've done that. Thank you. And then with Emmanuel, I don't want to berate him in public, but when I see someone come up, like we can do this in a private conversation. Hey, Emmanuel, it would have really helped us out if you'd prepared more. Yeah, could you bring that up to a level 3 or 4? Because I feel like you're a 1 or 2, wouldn't you say? Be bold, and if you're the musical director, then I would encourage you to speak into that. Because you know what's going to happen next week? If a level 2 from Emmanuel was okay, or level 1 from Emmanuel was okay, next week 2's going to come at a 2. Right? And that's what, I see it over and over again, lowest common denominator of preparation. But we want to have that flipped on its head. A lot of positive affirmation and clear expectations. But here's the thing, I've walked into some churches to do their workshop, and I'll speak to the musical director before the workshop. It's like, okay, can you show me your repertoire? Oh, yes, I can. This huge folder, full of 250 songs, and he's really proud of it. Or it's like they'll email me a PDF, hundreds of songs. Yes, we can do any of those. There's a big problem. For someone who's also a plumber or a teacher or a student or a stay-at-home mum, to ask them to be a level 3 or 4 for 150 songs is asking too much. That will not work. So there has to be some give and take in here. So here's some comments about song selection and repertoire. And some of this is not specifically for our practice, rehearsal, and sound check. We're going to get more to that, but this is important. You need to balance nostalgia and novelty, in my opinion. You need to have some of the songs that are well-known favourites for your congregation and introduce newer songs, not too many new songs, not all old songs. And here's a quick point about this. If you do all nostalgia, all older songs, you end up communicating, and you may not mean to, that things were better in the old days. You know, people really followed Jesus back then. I don't know what's going on today. The kids have lost it. You know, that's what you end up communicating if you only have nostalgia. Conversely, if you have all new songs, all brand spanking new songs, you end up communicating the opposite. Wow, we really know what it means to follow Jesus now. Those people that are older than us, they didn't get it. And neither is true, right? Neither is completely true. So it's going to be different for different congregations, different ages, different preferences, but I would encourage us to not do all nostalgia, not do all novelty, but find the right balance for your congregation, but always be doing at least some of both. Include both gift and the cost of the cross songs. I don't want to dig too deeply into this, but I don't think we should only be singing together, "Oh, happy day, my sins are washed away" type songs. We have to have also the "I surrender all." My response to the cross is going to require personal sacrifice. It can't all be the "Yay, Jesus" songs. You know, it's got to be both. Choose songs for the congregation and not for the band and not for the leader and not for the singers. Choose the songs that connect best there. The congregation tire of songs more slowly than you. Especially if you're the musical director, right, Nellie? You've listened to a bunch of songs, you've chosen one, you've listened to it about 15 times and gone, yes, I think we should do this one. And then you've thought about what key it should be in, and you've made it available to your band, and then they've practiced it, and then we've all rehearsed it, and then we've sound checked using it, and then we do that for a few weeks, and we're tired of the song, but the congregation is still just getting to know it. So if we really want to connect with people, we won't be ditching songs too quickly. We'll realise that even though we're tired of them musically, the congregation may not be tired of it yet, and we should keep doing it. But I just want to take us, thank you, Nellie, to quickly loop around with that why. Like, the higher joy of music is seeing how and hearing how people are connecting through the song. It's not about me getting to play what I want. Now, I've been a professional musician many, many years. And I am certainly not among the most talented of my peers when I was younger, of guys and girls who were aspiring to be professional musicians. There were many, many that I felt they were all more talented than me, to be honest with you, and I was probably very insecure as well. But the ones that quit, in my opinion, and I only see it now looking back with the benefit of rear view mirror, you know, are the ones that thought being a musician was about playing in a way that satisfied me, playing songs that I thought were cool, playing songs that really gave me that chill down the spine. Because if you play that same set of 12 songs 5 nights a week for 6 months, there's got to be something more, or you'll tire of it really quickly. And you see some of those instrumentalists who are like, just doing it again. There's a higher joy to music. Not about me having the right guitar tone or playing a drum fill that I dig. Not about me playing songs that scratch that musical itch for me. It's about helping people connect with God and with each other. And then we'll be happy to do those songs that on a musical level we might be tired of. So what have I been doing? I've been pushing my button not meaning to. Not too many songs. This is where we started here. Don't have too many songs in your repertoire and I'm going to speak a little bit more about that in a moment, and you must submit to the input of your leadership about song choice. That'd be my main thing. You've got to be saying, all right, pastor, leadership. Some churches, it's the eldership. What's the vision? Where are we heading? We need songs that support this bigger vision than ourselves. And if the leadership of your church congregation comes to you and says, as has happened to me, I really don't want you to do that song again. Oh, why? It's great. Because of the theological blah, 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 blah. No, those arguments should not happen. We have to submit to that leadership, even when we don't want to. And if we cannot submit to the leadership, which actually means we don't believe our leadership has the vision from God, then it's time for you to leave. Right? But even if you don't like it, it's time to leave. It's a little old now, but this is an actual PDF of my repertoire. Nellie got something similar to this, right? She's nodding and smiling. So I like to think of it like this. I know a lot of songs, but I've got to think about it in these terms so that my volunteer musicians, even my professional musicians, aren't going to be caught out being lower than level 3 or 4. So I like to have this list where I think of on the field, that orange highlighted, this is my team of players that are in rotation right now. And I'm going to choose all my songs from that list every week, every engagement. I'm going to choose them from there. And there's this very big long list on the left, being rested. Right? No, they're not in rotation. They're songs that we used to play, but they're off there. And we enjoyed them, we liked them. The people might want to sing them again one day, but they're off there. And there's actually another list that's not even up there, which is like been retired forever. Never going to do that again. Gone. And I have this little list constantly on the right-hand side. Possible recruits. Songs I've heard somewhere, songs that I've got an idea about, songs that the lyric really moved me at some event I went to, or I visited a different church service because I was traveling, and I'm going to write that one down and think about that one and be ready for it. And the clue is to have everyone on your team know that middle list. These are the songs I need you to be maintaining level 3 and 4 from. And you only ever add one song from the left or the right on any given week. So you can have that electric guitarist or singer or anyone that are able to go, all right, well, we're doing 6 songs this coming Sunday. Nellie's given me the Planning Centre link. 5 of them are from the centre list, so they're right there on the top of my head. I just need a little brush over to make sure I'm ready for rehearsal, and there's one song that's going to take an hour and a half, maybe 2. Hey, and I do every new song that I play, I spend at least 2 hours on it. I'm supposed to be a pro and be able to just slam it out straight away. No, I still spend a lot of time on these songs, any new song. And if I'm dragging a song from the left to the right, that might take an hour, just going over and getting it solid. So I'm not thinking about the words, I'm not thinking about the chord changes and the shapes, just so I'm brushed up on it, but properly. Questions or comments about this so far? You love it? Good. Thanks, Emmanuel. It's very encouraging. So, you just can't have too many songs. It just really throws things out. You cannot ask your team to be a level 3 or 4 for 5 or 3 new songs any given week. It takes too long, and people will bring you their lowest common denominator. They'll show up 1 or 2. You know it. That's what's happening now. But they didn't know what the songs were. They all felt new to them. Now, a little confession here. My home church in Nashville, Tennessee, which they call Music City, USA, flooded with professional musicians and singers and technicians. I'm a part of a congregation called City Church East, about 250 people that meet in a middle school hall every week. We are told that somewhere between 30 and 40% of our congregation are professional touring or recording musicians. So when I am asked to lead, which happens about once a month, I send an email out saying, here are the songs, here's access to the charts and the MP3s, spend as much time as you need to on them. And we only get together at Sunday morning, 8 a.m. for a 10 o'clock service. There's about 2 runs through each song, if you're lucky. And most of my band don't even open the email. But I stand in front of my band and I go, was a pro, is a pro, aspiring pro, another pro, one volunteer who's just an interested musician. And they can do it. They slam it every week, and they bring fresh arranger things to it that I never imagined. And it's beautiful, but it's not, and I know it's not fair. Here we are in Kissimmee, Florida. There are instrumentalists who can do this without any personal preparation, but they're all in LA, New York City, or Nashville. They're not here, and they're not where you're from. I'm sorry if that sounds arrogant, but they're not, and they're certainly not volunteers on church teams. Yeah? So, where are our sound engineers here? Any sound engineers? All right, yes, I know we've got some here. And you do the visual stuff too, mainly? All right, good deal. Now, I didn't speak much about this, but I really think there needs to be a defined sound check when we get together. Rehearsal hasn't started yet until we've done a sound check. So we understand we've all personally practiced, and here's the Nashville language. Nellie, what time? We have an 8 a.m. run through on Sunday morning? 8:15. So the language should not be, we're having our rehearsal at 8:15. I think it should be downbeat at 8:15. That's the Nashville speak. That means if you're a drummer and you need to set up your drum kit, or if you're a sound engineer, you need to be ready for the sound check to start at 8:15. And so that might mean the sound tech is here at 7. Getting everything sorted out, maybe. I'm pulling these out of the air. If someone's got their own pedal board and electric guitar amp or whatever, they might need to get here 20 minutes before that, before that 8:15 downbeat. Singers can walk in 2 minutes before, like 8:13, that's fine. But if you say we start at 8:15, people will start showing up then. And if you've taken on the task of being a drummer who needs to bring in their drum kit from the car every Sunday and set it up, and that's not often the case these days, but if you are, you just have, that's what you have to do, get there earlier and be ready for downbeat. And me as musical director, I'm like, okay, 8:15, all right everybody, sound check is starting. And we have a very definite beginning to the sound check, and we have a system for the sound check, and a very definite end to the sound check. And we go, okay, we're going to run just the chorus of this song that we know really well, play it through. Anyone need any adjustments? Yes, we do. We need the vocal up here, over here a little bit, please. And we sort things out, and we go, okay, sound check is over. Here's the rehearsal. And I think that should happen every time. So sound check tips from me are along these lines. Have one. I'm not going to put you on the spot and say who doesn't really have sound checks. I wouldn't mind betting that a lot of us don't really have them, or if we do, they're sort of overlapped with other things. I'm saying when I have a sound check, there's not a word being said by anyone, not a note being played. It's a definite sound check, and I'm going to show you my system in a moment. But I can't even, and I'll just do, like if the singers start chatting when I'm trying to make sure my acoustic guitar is like, I'm sorry singers, I can't really hear this guitar while you're talking. Thank you so much. Thank you. I just do it, right? It needs to be silent as we do the sound check. I don't know how many times I've taught a church band this idea of sound check, and they've found like, oh, there's been an earth buzz in the acoustic guitar for probably 15 years, and we never heard it. Oh, Stephanie's microphone's not on, and never has been. Like we find all these things. If you don't have a sound check, you won't discover a bunch of things. You go through blindly thinking it's pretty good, and that will all have a negative effect. That buzz in the acoustic guitar, that microphone that we thought was on but is not on, all those things add to the problems we're having at helping our people connect with God through song, connect with each other through song. So they're important. So have a sound check with a defined start and end. Musical director or sound technician. By the way I love to start a sound check when I'm visiting, especially, and I'll probably do this on Sunday, actually probably this evening with David. David, are you ready for the sound check? Yes, I am. Would you like me to run it? Because I would like to, or do you want to run it? I have that. You can run it, Grant. I'm hoping that's what you're going to say later tonight, David. Great, thank you very much. All right, we're just going to have my voice to start with. Check 1, 2, and we go through each sound source individually and check the front of house for David, and we check our monitors for ourselves if we've got personal mixers. And we move through systematically. It needs a musical director going, okay, we're just hearing the bass guitar right now. I'm sorry, no electric guitar right now. We're just hearing the bass guitar. Thank you. You know, like, just plow through it and do it with that definite direction. Develop a well-led sound check system, which is what I'm talking about there. I like to start with my microphone first. That's the first thing I want to sound check, because I want to communicate to everybody. Especially when you've got in-ear monitors and different things going, it's got to be, I'm going to get my voice sound checked first and then move through each thing individually. Now, the first time you do it, it'll take a while and you might uncover all sorts of problems. But the more you do this quick sound check, when it's well directed with a start and an end, you can get it done very, very quickly, especially if it's the same setup every week and we haven't had to unplug everything. But you still need to isolate each sound source during a sound check. Play something all together, make adjustments, play that same something again, that chorus of This Is Amazing Grace that you know really well. Play it again and listen to it. Play something loudish, by the way, something loudish in that sound check, because it sort of tests the limits of where we're at, because it's easier to back off from there rather than go forward from there. And have that system down, and if you do it well, you can get it done really quickly. Check levels and equalization and mix and pan if you have stereo potential there. Make sure everyone on your team knows what these different things mean. And especially with the world of the in-ear monitors, we need to have people trained about, well, what am I actually shooting for with this in-ear mix? So we need to make sure people are understanding these terms and what we're actually going for with a sound check. More about that in a moment. Sound check using your loudest sound. What I see very often, it's usually that like 16-year-old little girl who's only been on the team for 3 months. Okay, Josephine, it's your turn to sound check. Check 1, 2. Yes, that's fine. Yep, exactly. And then during the service, this is amazing grace. Like she's really ripping it. And like, no, you've got to find a way of sound checking your full level, so it's not a big difference between the sound check. I say to Josephine, you've just got to get over it, Josephine. No one really likes the sound of their own voice, totally isolated like that. Like everyone's listening to me. It can be really, really fearful. Right? Oh no, everyone's going to hear that I don't know what I'm doing. We're all feeling like that. It's okay. We're all we have, you know. We just got to learn to get over. If you are able to be up there leading this church congregation, then you need to be able to sing This Is Amazing Grace at your full level, totally on your own, so we can sound check that. And I've had some success with that little Josephine who can't do that. I'll start singing with her. Let's sing together. This is amazing grace. You got it? Keep going. I'm playing my guitar. This is unfailing. And I just pull off my microphone and leave her on her own and then stop playing guitar. And coach her to that. And once she starts, the start of that sound check moment is the most difficult for most vocalists. It's a lot easier for drummers and guitarists to do that sound check moment, I think. But please don't turn it into a, let me show you what I've got. You know, just play something that we can sound check. Right, David? Yeah, nods. Turn things down before you turn anything up. Right? And this is we're sound checking, but I want to hear more of me. Well, we all want to hear more of ourselves, but that's not necessarily what's right. Turn other things. It's not about us, right, John? It's not about us. We want to have a sense, like a lot of people want to hear so much of themselves in their monitor mix that they end up being unaware of other things that are going on, and we need to be favoring each other above ourselves, right? And this happens in our sound, in our mix as well. Turn things down before you turn anything up. This is especially important with monitor mixing, but is also relevant to front of house mixing of the sound. eliminate what I call sonic soup from the platform. Now, with in-ear monitors and with cages for drum kits and with, I don't see any guitar amps. What are we doing for guitar, like electric guitar sounds here? A direct box, so they've got some sort of amp modeling pedal or something? Okay, so there's been this huge effort over the last bunch of years to have a silent stage or as close to silent as possible. I'm actually not a big fan of it, but the effort to have a silent platform, drum shields, in-ear monitors, no guitar amps on the platform, that's because people were like, more me, more me, more me, more me, more me. And it ended up just sort of influencing the front of house mix. In-ear monitors, drum shields, no guitar amps on the platform, lower stage volume, don't take away the problem, they take away the symptom of the problem. The problem is with the human heart that wants more me. So I remain, and will remain, I think, till the day I die, a fan of having some stage volume, but keeping it really low, and don't having a more me mix, have a we mix. I'm a big fan of a band called Deep Purple. Does anyone remember Deep Purple? Oh yeah, fist bump. Yeah, man. Yeah. I've seen them live 3 times. Now, in the 70s, Deep Purple were thought of as, and they actually got a Guinness World Record for being the world's loudest band. 120-something dB. Crazy. And they put out an album in 1974 called Made in Japan. Not Made in Japan, that was Iron Maiden's live album. Made in Japan, Deep Purple, 1974. And there's a classic moment on that record, and you can find it on YouTube or in my phone. And it's right at the end of Smoke on the Water. You know that song? Bam, 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 out. Like, it's one of the best riffs of all time. It's at the end of Smoke on the Water, but before the song, the mule starts, right? You can hear the band just sort of on the stage, and there's crowd noise, and the lead singer is having a discussion with his monitor engineer. Like, it's all open speaker wedges. It's the loudest band on the planet. It's hugely loud, and you hear him say, "Can I have my monitor up a little bit? Can we just a little bit?" And then he says these immortal words, "I want everything louder than everything else." I want everything louder than everything else. That was the problem with amps on the platform, open speaker wedges, no drum shields. I want everything louder than everything else, especially me. And so that necessitated the need for these quieter stages. But you remember how we started this talk today? Like, we're in the business of connection, right? We're in the business of vertical and horizontal connection through songs. You know the main purpose of in-ear monitors? Isolation. You know the main purpose of a drum shield? Isolation. These barriers take away the symptom of the problem, but they don't actually solve the problem. And then we put in place things that make it harder for us to connect. It's harder to connect with a drummer through a shield, right? It's harder to connect with a congregation when you've got earbuds in. So it's counterintuitive, I think, a lot of the time. Anyway, I just got on my little soapbox there for a little while. So we still need to eliminate sonic soup from a loud state, but also sonic soup in the sense that our music is not well connected. The parts and the tones and everything else is not working together well. And there's a lot more to that we could go into, but maybe another time. Listen to one another, monitor all sounds. And I've even heard it at like what we call worship conferences. I think it was at Experience Conference in Orlando a few years ago, where there was a pro drummer speaking about drumming with in-ear monitors, and he said, all I have is the click and a little bit of the leader and one other chord instrument, because I really want to focus on my groove and my playing. I don't think that's the right approach at all. I spent 3 and a bit years in Sonic Flood with 2 amazing electric guitarists in the band, both great tone, great parts, great technical ability. And this was our sound check. We had a beside stage monitor engineer. When it was sound checking, it was like, okay, do you want some of the other electric guitarists? And both of them would go. No, I don't want to hear him. Why? Because it's all about me. And both of these electric guitarists with great tone and great parts and great technical ability for 3 years playing all over the top of each other, to my idea of musicality. Just both of them playing too much, not leaving space for each other. Why? Because they're not even aware of what each other are playing. They've asked for them to be muted. I don't want to hear him. And I see it in churches as well. Oh, Stephanie's a bit pitchy, I'll just turn her down. No, we've got to work together, and we've got to be aware of every sound that we're crafting together. And we'll leave space for one another, and then we'll hear things like Stephanie's pitchiness and help her be on pitch. Yeah? Make sure you can hear the congregation. And this is especially important for the person who I think is tasked with the job of leading the congregation. This is why I'm not one of the main reasons why I'm not a huge fan of in-ear monitors, especially if I'm asking a congregation to sing. I need to be able to hear them. Otherwise, it becomes too much about my performance, me making sure I'm singing really well. But almost every person, especially, I find this especially true of people who are leading a congregation to sing songs that worship God. They'll pop one ear out. Maybe you've done it. Have you seen that? Why? Because they know it's about connection. I've seen Tomlin pop two out and he can't hear himself sing. But he's prepared to be pitchy. He's prepared to have no monitors because he knows it's about connecting people with God and connecting people with each other through a song. We have this internal sense as leaders of praise singing, of prayers through songs, that if I can't sing with these people, it becomes about my performance for these people. And that's not what we should be doing. Very big difference between performing for a group of people or asking them to recognize that they are singing to God. Big difference. Number 10, invite and submit to the input of the audio tech. Now, this is mainly for this list is written thinking about the instrumentalists and the singers, but there's the thing that needs to be taken note of, especially at CSMT. So at the end of what I think is the end of the sound check, near the end of the sound check, I'm going to be saying, hey David, is there anything we need to change? What do we need to do to make it better in the house? Or at the end of rehearsal, or at the end of each service, whenever I can, going especially to the audio tech, but not just the audio tech, maybe the lighting tech and the projectionist for words as well. Like, how'd it go? Do we need to change anything? Submit to those technicians, because they're, like we've said, are the objective ears and eyes. We can't see that. Whew, okay. I just wanted to, I've spoken a little bit about this already, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper with it. So the newer technology that I've already shown you that I'm not a huge fan of, in some situations at least, but the newer technology is in-ear monitors, probably through a personal digital console, or sometimes people are doing it on your phone or an iPad. Can I get a show of hands? Who is using this technology for monitors now? Okay, so put your hand up though if you're not using that technology now. Open speaker wedges? Great, okay.
We have one guitarist who refuses to embrace the in-ears. So we've got a wedge for him, everybody else has in-ears.
And is he an electric guitarist?
Yeah.
Has he got an amp on the platform?
No, he's got the icons.
Okay. I have not yet heard an electric guitar tone that I've really liked that's direct.
He fiddles with it a lot to get where he wants it.
Yeah. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He has color.
Well, since you like Deep Purple, I'll go with you on that. So in the same way that there's this arranger gap, remember we spoke about that, when we're not being handed notation with all the symbols and all the musicality and where the rests are and where the bar should be left out, there's also a gap here. See, understand, a lot of our volunteer, amateur church musicians and singers, they're on the platform pretty close to the edge of their ability as it is. And then we say to them, by the way, you're also an audio engineer. So if you are a sound technician, I'd ask you not to think, oh, well, they are mixing their own monitors now. It's not my problem. It just makes your problem invisible. we still need to take on the role of making sure our singers and our instrumentalists on the platform are trained and have the skills to give them a shot, at least providing themselves with an inspiring mix that helps them sing and play well. You know, I often see, you know, I did this at one workshop I did actually. I put my earbuds in. I have them. I use them. That's good. And I went around and I took a little Y splitter, you know, 1/8-inch Y splitter, and I plugged into each person and listened. And the mixes were just horrible, you know, like lots of me and not much of anything else, or just a big ball of mush, no one panning properly. But no one had ever trained them. What is a good mix? What are we trying to get? And if you're a front of house engineer, I hope you know what a good mix is and what it should sound like. And we need to teach our instrumentalists and singers what that is. I love to think about this. I think about my son Casper, who had his 4th birthday this week. And he loves bouncing on Mummy and Daddy's bed. And I picture it like this. When I'm mixing and when I'm rehearsing the band and helping us knock off those rough edges and get it together, I'm thinking the melody and the lyric of the song is the little boy bouncing. The foundation of this, the thing that this little boy bounces on is Mummy and Daddy's bed. That has 2 halves. That's the drums and the bass. I want that solid, that low end, especially the kick drum and the bass, I want that solid and foundational so the little boy can bounce. And then everything else, electric guitars, keyboards, acoustic guitar, harmony vocals even, they're just like the pillows and the blankets. The little boy will bounce without any one of them. But I want to be aware of what they're playing, so I throw them off to left and right, and I have them lower so I can really hear what I'm asking the congregation to sing, the lyric and the melody of the song. And even that picture can help someone. Think about it so that, yes, you want to be aware of yourself, but not too much and not too little. And you want to have a little bit of everything that's in our sound, but create space in your mix and have a good foundation of the lower end instruments. Whew. How are we going? How's the energy level? We're doing all right? Okay. And but if you want to burst in with a question or a comment, you just go for it. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep plowing away because I'm passionate about this stuff, you know. I think we can all do better, and I want to pour into you as much as I possibly can. Good deal. Rehearsal tips. Have one. No, hopefully you already have one. Must have one musical director with a recognized role. I cannot state this clearly enough. And when I say recognized role, it needs to be like the leadership of this church has placed Nellie into the role of musical director. And anyone who is volunteering underneath that leadership, they need to recognize that so that there's this like a pyramid effect of the vision and the objectives for what we're trying to do with a song. Because you don't want, you know, someone coming up and saying, well, I've decided we're going to do this song. Not what you chose this week, you know, and that's an extreme of it, but you can't have that. There's got to be this leadership. Now, often what happens, and I see it over and over again, that the person who is the lead singer becomes the musical director. The person who is saying, all right, congregation, let's sing this song. The person who's actually asking the congregation to sing. Now, I agree that anything with 2 heads is a monster, right? But the musical director for your ensemble, for your instrumentalists and singers, does not have to be the person who leads the congregation to sing. They are 2 very separate roles. And the person leading the congregation to sing, to me, comes under the musical director. Now, often it's the same person twice. It sounds like you do both roles often. I often do both roles, leading the congregation and being the musical director, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. You want the musical director to be someone who's the most musically competent, but also they need to be a really good communicator, even a strong communicator, but clean communicator, never malice, never mean, never nasty, but I'm prepared to go there and say those things that are uncommon, especially in church music circles. Yeah, I'll say the tough things, but I've got to do it with a smile on my face, and my Australian accent seems to help. So, the MD or musical director must have clear, strong vision and communication skills. The MD must exceed the standard for personal preparation. Fast way to teach your team not to be prepared if you're not prepared. For the MD does not have to be the leader of the congregation. We spoke about that, yeah. Use clear, unmistakable verbal and visual cues consistently. And here at Calvary Assembly of God, I saw a chart up there of the different hand signals and what they mean, like a printed out thing in a plastic envelope. You laminated. Is that you? Did you make that?
No, one of my awesome team members made that.
Okay. Yeah, verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, the chorus, like there's these hand signals that we all know. And, some churches seem to want to play songs with a very straight structure. This is the structure. Intro, verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, double chorus, end. And that's the way it's going to be every time. But I think when we are trying to respond to what the Holy Spirit is doing in a moment and sensing the song and where are we going to go now? Wow, we're just starting to resonate with that chorus. We want to do it a third or a fourth time. We want to bring it down and build it up. You've got to have these signals if you want to go there. And you end up being a bit too, you know what I mean? So that can only happen. It's great to have the good, clear hand signals, but you've also got to have band members and singers who are so immersed in this song that they're ready for you to do that, right? Ready for it to change. And that's a benefit of having a musical director who is also the leader of the congregation, because they can do both. It's a bit harder when you've got one person leading the congregation and someone else being the musical director. Who's going to decide whether to go double chorus, But you work it out. Keep everyone engaged, on their toes throughout. Because one of our problems with band members at our rehearsal chatting or jamming is because we haven't given clear direction. We haven't, we're fuddling. We're like, I don't know what we're doing yet. No, have it really clearly in your mind what you're doing and how you're going to do it. And keep people engaged. Give needed musical guidance kindly but directly. Don't, I hope that goes away. It's been quite interesting, like doing these workshops that I do traveling around. Sometimes and I'll pull an example out of thin air. I don't know, I've had to say something tough to a drummer. Any drummers in the room? Okay. I might say, hey, I'm really struggling with this because, and I feel like the congregation's going to struggle later. Like the tempos are swinging really a lot. Have you ever played with a click, a metronome? Yeah, I think we need to introduce that. And then after the workshop's over, the person who's like the staff person that I've been there to help, they're like, thank you for saying that to the drummer. I have not known how to say it. It's been 3.5 years. I'm exaggerating. That's what I do. But if the tempos are swinging, or it can be like those drum fills that are just totally inappropriate. You know the ones? I call them drum kit down a stairwell fills, They've got nothing to do with the musicality of the song. They don't support the melody. They just and they fall in and out of time. And it's like, you mustn't do those drum fills. And if we've agreed on the big why, it's like when you do those drum fills, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but they're falling out of time and they're not supporting the melody. And it's going to make it really tough for the congregation to sing if you play like that. So, smile on the face. So, would you refrain from doing those big, long fills? Look for really simple, small fills. I've had wonderful success with drummers, especially young drummers, and saying, until you can play with a click, let's not do any drum fills. None at all, because it's the drum fills where you're going out of time the most. Let's just play with the click and get groove, because if you don't have groove, we don't know where the beat is. The whole band is terrible if the drums aren't right. The drums are so important. It's all built on the drums, this sort of music. So until we have got a good solid beat, we've got nothing, and the congregation will be lost. So you having groove, finding what we call pocket, that's more important than you being able to do a drum fill. So much more. I had one young drummer say to me when I introduced the click, "Oh, that click keeps on getting slower. Like, I'm playing with it and it keeps slowing down. Is there some glitch in your app?" You know, like, no. It's very hard to hear sometimes when you're inside it. Positive affirmation publicly, issues discussed privately. Now, I've given you some examples where I think, like, sometimes those things need to be dealt with immediately. Like, someone's noodling when I'm trying to sound check my vocal. "I'm sorry, I need you to take a break there." "Yep, we're trying to sound check this." Not a sounder. It gets really tough. You know, like, so things like that I will. But if someone's showing up repetitively, not prepared for rehearsal, or they're showing up late over and over again, then try and deal with it privately, and start with a question, not with an accusation. "Hey, I've noticed you're showing up late. What's going on in your life? Is there a problem I should know about? Because we'd love to have you here for 8:15 downbeat, but it hasn't been like that. Is there something?" Start with a question, not an accusation. Must provide excellent practice resources in good time. Give people enough time to do that personal practice. And it happens a lot where people are like, "Well, we're going to do the song in E, but here's a recording of it in B flat." And for most people, that's just too difficult. You've got to give them a sound recording in the key that we're going to play it in that matches the chart. And that's very possible through Planning Center. And Planning Center, part of the service that Planning Center offers is this thing called transposer.com. Have you seen that? And you don't have to have a subscription to Planning Center to do this, but Transposer, it's the word transposer without the last E, transposer.com. You can upload an MP3, tell the website what key it's in, tell the website what key you want it to be in, and then like 1 or 2 minutes later, there's an MP3 that you can download, and it's been digitally shifted, and it sounds horrible, but people can play along to it or sing along to it. And so I like saying, "Hey, here's the Tomlin version in B flat, but we're going to do it in G, and here's our digitally shifted G, so you can play along and sing along." And let people hear, you know, the crisp, correct version, I guess. That could be a YouTube link, but make sure they've got a sound recording in the key that we're going to do it in. Frequent, clear reminders of why and for whom. Don't or resist falling into the trap of always being about the what and the how. The what and the how only makes sense if we agree on the why and for whom. Yeah. So constant reminders of that. Put them in your emails to each other. Say them to each other as you're leaving rehearsal. And I think, like, I realise I've poured a whole lot on top of you guys. I'd love to chat with you more about this. I hope you've given me your email address. Please do go to that website. I think we've got like 2.5 minutes for questions, but I'm here all weekend. I'm very happy to hang around. But has anyone got some burning thing they want to say or ask right now? Yeah.
Some of our guys with in-ears have their own controls. Other ones I control through boxes. And one of the things that always gets me is when they say, "Will you turn up such and such?" And then they squirrel and they go start talking about something else. And it's like, well, how do I know when I'm there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. On behalf of all musicians, I'm sorry. I still do that. Yeah. So if you have a sound engineer making an adjustment for you, then give them the courtesy of giving them your attention. So I do this thing with sound engineers, like, we have very clear signals. I want more of something, I want less of something, I am happy. I want more of something, I want less of something, I'm happy. And it can't be this, and it can't, we have this agreed sort of thing. So with my sound checks, like especially if it's open speaker wedges, where they're all being operated by an audio engineer, it's like, okay, my mic, this is mic number one, who wants it? Who wants, and you have every person in the band or the group of people around one monitor mix going, more, oh, less, thank you, I'm done. And then we move to the next thing, and we do that with a system, and that's up, down, I'm happy. But yeah, I want more of this, and then disengaging is quite disrespectful, and I've done it many times, and I'm very sorry on behalf of all musicians. Yeah. Yeah, in order. Mm. Ah, the Bible says order. Yeah, there's a lot of intentionality with what I'm talking about here, isn't there? And a lot of this sound check system was actually taught when I was playing at some of those bigger Christian music festivals, where there's like a 5-minute changeover between bands. It's like you get on, you plug into some amp that's waiting there for you, and you check your tone, and then you watch the stage manager, who is an angry old man, until you get to know him and you realise he just loves music and loves musicians and wants us to do well, but he does not take any musician fluff. And he'll be like, bam, bam, this is what you're getting, this is what you're doing, everyone happy, we're up, down, happy. No, don't give me anything else except up, down, happy. That's all I want, up, down, happy. Yeah, that's it. All right, move around. And he gets it done in 5 minutes, you know, like, and that's what we can do, something like it as well. Question, comment? Yeah, big voice, if you don't mind.
In the World Planning Center, how structured do you have rehearsal? Like, okay, it's downbeat at 8:15, we're done. Because we're trying to find that balance. So we want there to be structure and intentionality, but we don't want to be a dictator either as far as like, hey, we need a potty break or have you any experience in that or seen other churches do that well? To their benefit?
Well, I guess I operate on this idea that what inspires people most to lift their game and to bring their best, which is what I'm going to focus on, is that they're part of something that's really excellent. And I think you can have that as well as having that personal touch, you know, the smiles and the fun and the laughter and the potty breaks or whatever it takes. So I don't think it's an either or involved, you know. Hanging out together from time to time, having those jam nights when we're not actually rehearsing a song. But if we're offered very limited time to prepare music to engage our congregation, then I'm one for running it like a pretty tight ship, but with a smile on my face and no nastiness, no malice. And I've actually found that like people respond really well to that. Like one example I love to talk about was I've made quite a few trips to the state of Maine, and the first time there, I said, look, I want to form a band in Maine, and because I've got 10 engagements in 7 days, and I want to have a band at most of those. And someone said to me, well, there's this band, they're called the band Apollo. They're good players, but they're all like 17, 18. Maybe you'd want to just use them so that they're one whole thing. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. That first run with them, I mean, it worked out okay, but we had one rehearsal and then, 10 gigs in 7 days, and they were like shocked by my expectations of them, you know? But they all wanted to be my band next time, and they nailed it. And they all wanted to be my band next time, and they nailed it. And 2 of those guys are pro musicians now. One of them's in Nashville, nailing it. Drummer, Jonathan Truman, incredible. People want to feel like they're part of something with excellence and that's achieving its goals, helping people connect with God and with each other, tasting that higher joy of music. You let your team taste that higher joy, not feeling like they're part of something cobbled together. I don't think they'll mind having their potty break before rehearsal starts, you know? Like, it's a tight ship, and I think people love it that way. Most people. Not everyone, most people, I would say. Anything? Wow, you're all so well behaved. Great. Well, I think that's time for us to take a little break. What's a dinner break now? Is that right? Great. That was an hour and a half. That was long. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to leave out, though. Great. Emmanuel, will you say a short prayer for us to bring our time to a close?
All right. Father, we'd like to thank you at this present moment. We thank you for everything that you've done. We thank you for the wisdom and guidance that you provide us each and every day. We ask you, Lord, that you keep using us as vessels, that you keep inspiring us to be better for you. Because at the end of the day, Father God, we do it for you and only for you, Lord. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray.